Today's video is about the USA lobby, not to be mistaken for the COD lobby, although both are famous for fat juvenile idiots who have never seen real violence in their life, glorifying wars that they're way too weepy to fight in themselves. Okay, that's unfair to people in the COD lobby. The people from the USA lobby couldn't last 5 minutes in a COD lobby. And yes, sorry for repeating the same format of joke that I began the Israel lobby video with, but this is apparently what the patrons want. Another video reminding Australians of the limits of their country's sovereignty. They voted for me to make a video on the USA's grip on Australia. Do you need a video for that? If you want to see their grip, you could just go outside and see some kid rotting their mind on TikTok.
TikTok's Chinese, not American.
What? Unbelievable. Just because it sounds like a typical Chinese man's name. Next you're going to tell me ping pong's also Chinese. In fact, I bet you go to China and their most popular dating app is called Skipper. Now, if you feel yourself welling with rage over this innocuous and very, very clever gag, there's the actual reminder of the USA's grip on Australia, promoting annoying scold culture in a country that once made Stan Zemanek famous. Remember this guy?
Welcome back to the show. I must say I get a lot of letters from people saying, what sort of credentials do the girls have to be on the panel? Well, if I could just quickly go around the panel, then we've got Ida, who is a divorcee twice, a serial divorcee.
Oh, don't run a mile.
Then,
Just so you know, that woman went on to be the chair of the ABC. Could you imagine fucking Kathleen Kennedy ever going on a show like that? That's why Australia's culturally superior.
Camille over here, who, once again, no bloke, no husband, no kids, no relationships, nothing.
Happy.
Potential lesbian.
That's the cross-section of society. That's what people are looking
But
here.
have a look at you, though. You're all failures. You're all failures. You've all got failed relationships.
You see, this is why we should be at the top of the Western hegemony. We thought of the Whatever podcast 20 years before you Yanks did, and we did it better. The biggest tragedy of Stan Zemanek dying prematurely is that he never got to host Fresh and Fit. What's your body count? You wouldn't even know, would you? Can you even count? 1, 2, 3. That's how you count. How many joints you've had that day, you dope smoking half-wit. Now, I am sorry for this very niche reference, but again, it does illustrate my point. You all know Fresh and Fit, but how many of you know about the Giga Chad version of Fresh and Fit, which is Beauty and the Beast, which is hard to top, seeing as the entire fucking point of Fresh and Fit is about how to be a Giga Chad. Now, before you finish this video, pause. You must watch Stan Zemanek fights with and throws book at Jan Murray on Beauty and the Beast, vintage 2001.
Hey, Jan.
I know I've said it before, but Australia is now more of a special economic zone of the US empire, albeit with nice things like Medicare and 2GB. Medicare for the mind. But how long will Brandon let us keep our Medicare and 2GB? The answer is probably indefinitely, as how could you possibly fill the whole of Ben Fordham? Come on. If Ben was influenced by US radio culture, there is no way he'd shy away from talking about his love of rimming. Howard Stern to get a year of content off of that. Nonetheless, with our adoption of AUKUS, the United States has completely usurped any semblance of sovereignty we may have once thought we had. The USA's grip on Australia is as strong as it's ever been, as strong as one of those girls on Fresh and Fit would describe their gorilla. Because whilst we wait for our American nuclear subs, there is a chance that we will be left without any subs for possibly a decade whilst our current Collins-class submarines are retired. As former Prime Minister and man who proved leather jackets could be lame, Malcolm Turnbull pointed out, we're meant to be getting some American Virginia-class subs to make up the gap for the possible 10 years we're supposed to have to wait for the AUKUS SSNs to be built. But we probably won't get these Virginia-class subs unless US sub construction doubles within the next 4 years, which is looking pretty unlikely, meaning we're going to be left without any of our own subs. And a military in a country without subs is like a gay man in a bathhouse without subs, unable to f*** anyone up the bum. Which sucks because what if we want to go kick some ass in Micronesia? It'd be so easy if we had mad subs. Look, they've got the word micro in their name. There's no way they're a dom. But there's no way the US is going to let us do that. So there's a good example of the USA's grip on Australia completely owning our military. We're on a tighter leash than the metaphorical leash singer and polymath Jonathan Davis felt he was on when he wrote his 1998 single, Free Got a Leash. Does a middle power have a military heavily dependent on the legislative whims of a foreign country? Does a middle power allow a superpower to control when their military can go all Jonathan Davis at the end of the 1998 hit single Freak on a Leash on some other shitty, small, insignificant country and do the whole... No! As I've pointed out in earlier videos, Professor Clinton Fernandez's label for Australia's role in the world is far more accurate. We are a sub-imperial power, as opposed to the USA, which is a dumb imperial power, because it's fucking us up the bum! Sorry, there are way too many sub-jokes in this video, but hear me out! They're really easy to make. And to be fair on my impeccable wit, it's also an apt analogy, as Fernandez argues that AUKUS is deliberately designed to, quote, make it impossible for future Australian governments to defend ourselves outside of an alliance relationship. He also really clarifies the inaccurate way AUKUS is described, a deal to purchase nuclear submarines from the US. No, it's a, quote, mistake to think that we are buying submarines. We are, in fact, subsidising the US Navy submarine budget. Now, this brings me to a new point about the USA's grip on Australia. What would happen if a party of government were to pull a Trump? To tear up a terrible, single worst deal ever made. If you tore up AUKUS, there would probably be a significant campaign from the US and US interests to remove that party from government, as there has been in the past when Australian political parties tried to exert Australia's sovereign interests. You should all know the story of how the USA ousted Labor Prime Minister Gough Whitlam by now. I've done a few videos on it. You've seen Boy Boy's video on it, but I may as well go through some of the aspects of the story that I haven't touched on. And if you're annoyed at that repetition, you guys asked for it. And the USA keeps doing it. In 1972, as soon as Whitlam got in, he removed Australia's remaining troops from Vietnam. I know, lame move. Maybe that's why we never got an Australian apocalypse now. In the Aussie version, Willard would get distracted from his main mission looking for Kurtz and just go around trying bun me, obnoxiously proclaiming that it's not as good as Marrickville pork roll. Kurtz remained deep in the jungles of Vietnam, incapacitated from the roll he ordered from Uber Eats. Only a few months later, after withdrawing Australia from Vietnam, Whitlam's Attorney General Lionel Murphy raided the headquarters of ASIO, or if you don't know how to Google, the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation. This really pissed off the CIA, or if you don't know how to Google, the Crazy Idiot Association. The CIA, because of this, according to James Angleton, the chief of the Counterintelligence Department, considered severing intelligence relations with Australia entirely. Angleton even asked the CIA station chief to ask the head of ASIO to accuse Whitlam of lying to Parliament about the raid in an attempt to force him to resign. Whitlam also outed secret defence facilities overseas, ordered a royal commission on Australia's intelligence and security, threatened to close Pine Gap. He also attempted to nationalise the mines, but this video is too short to go into the economic moves that Australia could make that would upset US interests, so we're sticking to defence and foreign policy for now. In response, the CIA officer Victor Marchetti alleges that the CIA funded the Liberal country opposition to the tune of millions. They also did a bunch of cool other CIA shit to undermine Whitlam, but that's for another video. It certainly wasn't as mad as what the CIA tried to do to Indonesia's first president Sukarno, which was try to make a porno that looks like it stars him with the hopes of using it to blackmail him. Blackmail? What the hell were they thinking? I'd pay someone, let alone the CIA, to make a porno that looks like it stars me! And I'd pay even more to co-star. Yeah! Triple entendre of the word sub.
What's the triple entendre?
Sub, as in gay, substitute, as a substitute for me, and then just sub. And then we get to what they want you to think regarding the supply bill, where Governor General John Kerr dismissed Whitlam because he couldn't get a bill through the Senate. Well, according to this interview with former Pine Gap employee Christopher Boyce, funnily enough, with Mark Davis, our lawyer from the Boy Boy Pine Gap video, after the dismissal, CIA officer Joe Harrison was going around calling the Governor General our man Kerr. So yeah, we have tried having an independent foreign policy once, and it lasted 3 years. And that's not to say if Albo ripped up AUKUS, he would go down the same way Whitlam did. No, the way the CIA and US interests removed Whitlam was classy and noir. It was classic 70s style and pretty overt. Nowadays, it'd be a lot more boring and woke, much like the way the US interests undermined Kevin Rudd, some annoying internal Labor character assassination driven by US sources within the party and aided by idiots in the press. I mean, how shit is that? Watch that Oliver Stone movie, JFK. That's how I imagine the US deep state used to operate. For some reason, their world is always in black and white, covered in a haze of cigarette smoke. Now they just start mass media campaigns accusing leaders they don't like of violating rules propagated on Instagram infographics. Kevin Rudd was toxic and a manipulator, and you know what else? Can't spell manipulator without man. I could really get into why Okay, I'll say it. Why I don't like Gillard and some of the stranger elements of her administration and how she got into power. But to do it properly would take a pretty long video. If you want me to do that, sign up to Patreon and vote for it. The point is, this video is that the USA's grip on Australia is tight to the extent that the Australian government certainly can't exercise non-radical, just independent defence of foreign policy without risking concerted campaigns from US interests to remove them from office. But we can have Medicare and 2GB for now. As long as the real shadow leaders of the planet, Burundi, allow it. After all, what do you think the B stands for in 2GB? We are expanding. I thought it'd be a good idea to get more people so we can cover more stuff, because everyone's saying, oh, you're not covering X. It's because there's very, very few of us and we try to do quality shit. You could help us by joining us. We're looking for an editor and a writer. The writer would be a news junkie, someone who has the time to watch a fuckload of news to help us fulfill my long-promised dream of making what you think Media Watch does, as opposed to what it is, which is sophisticated state propaganda. And successful applicants would know exactly what I mean when I say that. Plus, they'd be a meme lord. Successful editors will basically be, I don't know, YouTube brain stoners. Look, I actually don't know. My editor will be checking those applications. We've got snippets of upcoming videos that you can try editing, links below. In fact, all the details and instructions will be linked below for both writers and editors. I'd wrap this up with a joke, but you do it. I'm so tired. So very, very tired.